The addition of Rugal to KOF 15 came with the wonderful announcement of a new mode titled the Boss Challenge. In this mode, we'll get to face the charismatic boss controlled by a ruthless AI from hell, just like we used to know him in the past. Although this wasn't confirmed yet, it's hard to believe that Rugal is the only boss that will haunt this mode. It is safe to assume that other SNK iconic villains will be added to it eventually, and this video lists 10 bosses that I wish to face in this mode. They'll probably traumatize me for the rest of my life, but I won't complain. Before starting the video, I want to draw your attention to the fact that I'm not going to include most of the bosses that you're expecting to see in this list. The reason is simple. I feel I talked about the likes of Genets, Chrysalid and Geese many times in previous videos, and I don't want to repeat myself. So don't draw the conclusion that I don't want them to join the challenge mode, because I most definitely do. I just want to shed some light on figures that I barely or never mentioned in the past. With that said, here's the top 10 bosses we want to see in the boss challenge mode of KOF 15. The other usually forgotten Kagura, Maki is the dead twin sister of Chizuru and by far the stronger of the two. She was originally the guardian of the Orochi seal until she was killed by Genets. This happened a long time ago before the events of the KOF series. That didn't prevent Maki from showing up in some games though. Her first appearance was in '96 as the alternative sub-boss replacing Chizuru if you're playing as the Secret Treasures team. Even though her playstyle was identical to that of her sister, it wasn't until 2003 where Maki was presented as a completely separate character, demonstrating how strong and borderline busted of a fighter she can be. Simply put, Maki has all Chizuru's strength and none of her weaknesses. She's a lot faster, her after images are invincible, and has many special moves that make her hard to keep up with. Considering that Chizuru was already super strong in '96 as the sub-boss, it's easy to imagine how cheap and unfair Maki can be if she receives the same treatment as an eventual optional boss in KOF 15. However, she is this low on the list because of one crucial reason. It appears that she is still dead and wasn't resurrected like most of the dead characters. There is one detail in the game that tells that much. During Chizuru's climax super, and only against one member of the Orochi team, we can hear a second voice talking along Chizuru's.
Time to style on for the climax!
That voice is obviously Maki's. It's easy to miss, especially that the announcer refuses to shut up, but you can clearly hear it in the voice clips in the gallery. If the lore is respected when bringing these optional bosses to the challenge mode, then Maki doesn't have a place in it, but I'm not against the idea of making an exception just for her. The main villain of Fated Fury 2 and Real Bout Special, Krauser, was present in only one canonical KOF game, '96, as part of the legendary bosses team with his half-brother Geese and the Kingpin Mr. Big. He did show up later in the Ultimate Match version of KOF '98, but other than these two games, he is nowhere to be found in the series. I think Krauser is hugely underrated as a character and as an SNK boss. True, he was never that difficult to beat in any game, unlike his nightmarish brother, but let's not forget that canonically, Krauser is supposed to be the stronger of the two, in the past anyway. He can be a fearsome grappler with his command throws and an annoying zoner with his multi-level fireballs, not to mention his iconic super Kaiser Wave, the devastating projectile that Rugal had copied from him. Speaking of Rugal, it seems that he dropped the use of this technique in favor of an original laser beam super. That gives me the hope that the Kaiser Wave is kept exclusive to its original owner. Making him part of the boss challenge mode is the perfect opportunity to show how much of a monster he can be. And while he's in KOF 15, why not tie him to the subplot involving Geese and the treacherous Hein? I can easily see him the real instigator of Hein's actions. Among all the bad guys of the Nest saga, Ron is the sole surviving one. The former leader of the Heizoku clan is a curious figure who is wrapped in a thick layer of mystery. He is extremely smart and manipulative, in addition of being insanely powerful, even though we don't know much about his fighting style since he was never a playable character. but you can assume that he fights similarly to Lin or his son Dulon. Glimpses of what he can do could be seen, however, in his striker form in KOF 2001 and O2UM. He can turn his body to dust and recompose it at will, but his most fearsome power is the ability to remove the soul of his opponents. Ron's ultimate objective remains unknown to this day. He betrayed his clan by drawing a nest at first, pretending that he was manipulated by the syndicate. Then he showed great interest in Kensu's latent powers, known as the Dragon Spirit. It is also known that he is deeply involved in necromancy and wants to manipulate the dead. And I think that latter detail is a good pretext to bring him to KOF 15, the game that contains the revival of the dead plot. Ron would certainly be interested in the recently resurrected character to further refine his necromantic capabilities. I think it is high time for Ron to leave the shadows and show us what he is really made of. And what better debut he could make than being one of the cheap, over-the-top bosses of the challenge mode. I also wanna see that badass dissolving effect he's famous of in higher resolution. Considered as one of the first female final bosses in fighting games, Mizuki Rashujin is the main villain of Samurai Shodown 2, a game that is considered among the best, if not the best entry in the series. Mizuki is quite a fascinating character. She is probably the only boss in all fighting games who we don't know what she actually looks like. Now this statement may be confusing for some of you, but allow me to explain. Mizuki is an evil spirit that has possessed the body of a priestess named Bizuki. At the end of Samshu 2, she is finally freed of Mizuki's possession and accompanies Kyoshiro after falling in love with his dancing. That's why a lot of people think that Mizuki is this crazy chick dressed as a priestess, but it's a bit more complicated than that. Mizuki has an ally in the form of a cute little puppy that is actually a terrifying ruthless demon and can transform the player into a pig with his projectiles. The question you might ask, what is she doing in a KOF video? Well, believe it or not, Mizuki is canonically a KOF character now. Versus win quote against Nakururu shows that she was also trapped within him, and of course, she is most likely resurrected after its destruction. If a future Samurai Shodown team joins KOF 15's roster, then Mizuki will be the perfect antagonist to show them hell, especially in the boss challenge mode. Just don't forget to bring her dog too, he's too adorable to be left behind. Geese Howard is confirmed as a future DLC, and I already mentioned Krauser in an earlier entry. The only one remaining to complete the 96 bosses team is Mr. Big, who I would have put in this list if there wasn't another figure from the series he came from, who is more deserving of place in the boss challenge mode, as he is considered as one of the cheapest, most infuriating bosses ever. Mr. Karate is Takuma Sakazaki when he decides to stop being a silly comic relief and puts on a Tengu mask. As you may have guessed, that goes beyond a simple cosmetic change. Mr. Karate is a monster in human form. He was one of the first cheapest SNK bosses way before Rugal Bernstein made his debut. As the true final boss of the original Art of Fighting, Mr. Karate was the quasi-insurmountable obstacle between the player and the big unsuspected twist in the ending of that game. He made an appearance in KOF 13 as well, though his presence there is most likely non-canon. Mr. Karate fights with similar moves to Takuma's, with some clear distinctions. His karate gi is darker, his fireballs are invisible, and has a dragon punch like Ryo. Now keep in mind that I was describing the regular and friendly Mr. Karate. He has another version referred to as Serious Mr. Karate, and which I'd love to see it make a return in KOF 15. In this version, he's a lot faster, deals more damage, his supers from the other versions are mere special moves, but most importantly, he has a longer nose. Let's take a look to another SNK game that is often forgotten by the players, Savage Rain. This game is not easy, even on the easiest difficulty. The first matches may be alright, but it gets tough very fast during the playthrough. Even so, nothing will prepare you against the main antagonist of this game, King Leo, not to confuse with King Lion, who is just an imposter serving as a sub-boss. He is the true final boss of Savage Rain. The two may look similar and use the same moves, but oh my god, King Leo is on a level of cheapness reserved just for him. Believe me when I tell you that you'll keep hearing Earth Chopper and Dynamite in your head long after you finish playing. Those were some of his cheap special moves. King Leo is also present in the sequel Kizuna Encounter, but he is greatly nerfed there and no longer occupies the position of the final boss. The last time he was seen was in Neo Geo Battle Coliseum as one of the optional bosses. I only fought him once there, and the way and speed he beat me with made me abandon all desire to try again. I have a personal score to settle with this guy. He is the only boss that I have yet to defeat. I tried many times during my playthrough of Savage Rain, but to no avail. He is painfully cheap and will put your patience into a harsh test. That's why he totally deserves to join the boss challenge mode. Hopefully he'll be more manageable there and I could finally get my revenge against him. Now this entry I talked about in a previous video, but I feel I need to include it this time again, simply because among all the bosses that the series had offered, Orochi Iori and Orochi Leona are the most traumatizing and unforgettable. They've been in only one canon game, KOF 97. They were playable again in 98 UM, and Leona could turn into her Orochi form in 2002, but other than this game, they were never playable since. And I find this kinda weird, because the Orochi form of both Iori and Leona is still a thing and is often brought back in story and endings. Leona succumbs to the Riot of the Blood in 2003. Iori goes berserk in 11. Their interaction in 15 mentions the Orochi influence, and there is even a secret ending including Iori, Leona and Shunei, showing Iori at the brink of going wild again. It's not canon of course, but it tells that the Riot of the Blood curse is still looming over these two characters and how much of a threat their alternative form represents to this day. Besides, a lot of new fans of KOF know about Orochi, Iori and Leona, but only from the story segments. They never actually played KOF 97 and don't know what it really feels to stand against these two monsters. That's why they really need to be integrated in 15 again, just so that these new fans experience some of the despair we felt back in 97. You're welcome. This is the most likely entry of this list to actually make it to the boss challenge mode. The final boss of KOF 15, Otoma Raga, is a bit of a controversial figure. Many players were disappointed by her because of two main reasons. The first one, she just came out of nowhere without any build-up to her appearance, and I can understand this complaint. The second and most brought up reason is, she is too easy. And I want to say, well thank God she is. It's true her AI is too passive, she rarely blocks, seems too shy to attack, and although she has a second phase where she regenerates part of her health, it doesn't really make a difference since she doesn't regain health between rounds anyway. Yet despite all that, I'm very grateful that she is so easy. Guys, did you see what she can do? Did you see what her moves look like? If she ever decides to fight seriously, nobody is gonna finish the game. For instance, what are you going to do if she starts spamming this move? It's super fast to react to, hits full screen and nullifies all projectiles. The only character that may have a chance against it is Dolores with her teleports, but even then, it's super unsafe to get too close to Otoma since she has a command grab super. Staying in mid-screen is also risky. She may attack you with those pillar things that hit low if she catches you standing, or hits you with her overhead hammer-like attack if you crouch. Not to mention her damaging projectiles and the Rain of Crystal super. Her defense is insanely high during her second phase, even for SNK boss standards. I used a full max mode combo with every super I have, and even then, it wasn't enough to drain that 30% life bar. I really want to see her fight with her full potential in the challenge mode, and while at it, make her use her red form from the get-go, and why not regain full health instead of just a third. Yeah, make her go full on Gil. Maybe then, players will show more respect to Mama Raga. Otoma Raga isn't the first boss who was stuck with a dumb AI to counterbalance her insanely overpowered moves. way before her, another famous figure received the same treatment. Orochi was also very easy to beat, despite being considered the strongest character in the KOF universe canonically. But unlike Otomaraga, we had the opportunity to see what Orochi could do if he was given an AI worthy of an SNK boss. That opportunity was in Neo Geo Battle Coliseum with Mizuchi. True, Mizuchi is not Orochi per se, he is a clone of Orochi. Originally he was a little boy that got infused with Orochi's DNA, which got him possessed by a fragment of Orochi's soul. As a result, he gained most of Orochi's powers, in addition of some unique attributes, most notably the use of water attacks, hence his name. Mizuchi is a totally unfair boss. His pillars of light come out super fast and are impossible to predict. The dark projectile that Orochi used to have got replaced with a snowflake-like fireball that is just as annoying, and of course it can be comboed into his return of nothingness super, just like with the original. In terms of defense, not only Mizuchi has a stupidly high HP, but each time you think you did some damage to him, he regenerates like 90% of it instantly. If Orochi was sealed again in 14 and remains so in 15, there is no reason not to bring his much more aggressive and busted clone to the boss challenge as a substitute. I think he could fit right in there among the other rage-inducing figures. Before unveiling the number one spot, here's some honorable mentions. As I said earlier, these characters are here just because I talked about them many times in the past, and not because I want them in the boss challenge mode less than the regular injuries. One of the most obscure characters and often forgotten bosses in all fighting games, Kuroko, also known as the referee from Samurai Shodown, is a criminally overlooked figure that a lot of players aren't even aware that he's a fighter and even playable in some games. The video I made about him tells that much, as it remains one of the least watched lore videos. Canonically, Kuroko is so strong that he is no longer interested in fighting anybody and is content to just referee in matches. But sometimes he might get impressed by the performance of a particular fighter, and this is when he decides to step in and challenge them. And by challenging them I mean making them regret the day they met him. The first time this was demonstrated was in Samshu 2, where Kuroko is a secret boss that can, under specific requirements, challenge the player. He is also present in Samshu 3, where he takes the form of the opponent, and is playable in Samshu 6. In the latter game, his move list is incredibly rich. Kuroko can mimic any move from any character, not just Samurai Shodown characters mind you, but also KOFs. In fact, his version of the said moves is so strong that makes us wonder if Kuroko isn't actually the original owner of these moves. It's worth mentioning that he can travel to and from hell as easily as a trip to the grocery store, so a jump to the KOF universe should be nothing to him, especially that other Samshu figures are already canon to KOF. Kuroko as the ultimate challenge who can mimic any attack from any character is too good of an option to ignore, and that's why he is the number one entry of the bosses we want to see in the challenge mode. So, which one of these characters you want them to join that mode, or is there others you would love to be destroyed by? Share your answer with us in the comments. Special thanks to my generous patrons for their support. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and why not consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.